Maseches Bava Kama, 925. Maseches Bava Kama, Daf Tzadi Beis Amud Aleph. We are Tzav, Tzav, exactly, Tzav. Yeah, we are going slowly, exactly. We are about the bottom third of the Daf. The line starts with the word Omar Avrom El Avimelech. Omar Avrom. That's where we are. But I have a small debt to pay you. And that is two things. A question that was asked yesterday and also a comment that was made 2 days ago. The Shiur, first of all, is Lunishmas of Imoyer Menachem and Akiva, the Lunishmas Rus Bas Shalom and Sora Bas Moshe. And obviously, Lunishmas Morenu, Oshmares Chaim Ben Yaakov Yisrael, above all. Now, we spoke yesterday about, 2 days ago, about Shaul HaMelech committing suicide. Because at the sugya, when we were trying to figure out why is it also for a person to harm himself, to injure himself, one of the havaminas was suicide, just like suicide is also so to harming oneself. And then the Gemara said, no, harming is not like suicide with all the respect. Yep. But Tosfos added another dimension to the discussion. And Tosfos said that of course it's also to do ashchoso and it's also to commit suicide and it's also v'chulei. The chiddush is even if you have kivyachol a justifiable reason, even that's the discussion is even about that is also. So even if a person would have a justifiable reason to commit suicide, he shouldn't. So l'maisa, it's a big sugya, and you can't really tell the person ask a local Orthodox rabbi because usually a person in that situation is under a lot of stress. The discussion is, and I don't know, it's halacha, if a person is scared that the enemy, whether it be the Spanish Inquisition or the Hamas or whoever, are going to torture him, chas v'sholom, and the torture is going to be so bad, is he allowed to commit suicide because of that fear? From Tosfos, it sounds like it's not. Yeah, mipachad, it sounds kilu, it's not. Yeah, because shum dover sheyore, because of fear, that's not enough. Shaul HaMelech, which was mentioned by our esteemed colleague, all the way from the peanut gallery, you mentioned Shaul HaMelech. Shaul HaMelech committed suicide. He told his arm bearer to do something. Then he fell on the sword, if I remember correctly. And then he said because he's scared that the Plishtim will catch him. So I saw the Am Shlomo explaining that Shlomo HaMelech wasn't just scared that, they're going to torture me. He was scared that, yes, they'll torture him, and that's not enough of a reason to commit suicide, but that would cause, because he's a Melech, that would cause the Jews, the Bnei Israel, to fight back and fight harder against the Plishtim. That would cause more war, and that would cause more death to the Jewish people. At the end of the day, more war does mean more death, and we don't want that. We're not looking for wars. Yeah, and therefore we said Shaul HaMelech, I prefer dying rather than the war escalating and flaring up and more Jewish lives taken. That's one. Secondly, regarding the question about kilayim, we said Yosef, I can hear him coming. Yosef was saying, Yosef, here you are. Yosef was asking, don't deny, it's online, it's recorded. Yosef asked how come you can have the gifonim and the palm trees growing so close together. One possible answer is not all kilayim are also in chul. In chutz la'aretz, you're not allowed to graft, and you're not allowed to as far as I remember, not allowed to mamish sow them together, plant them together in one go. But to plant one next to the other, I'm 99% sure chutz la'aretz is fine, because there are 3 or 4 types of kilayim. Not all of them are also in chutz la'aretz. So to just have 2 trees, which as far as I remember is even the rabbanon, it's not geffen with chita, it's not chita sarvachatz or polis yad. As far as I remember from a general knowledge, which I'm not 100% with, but I'm 99% sure that the stam tree next to another tree in chutz la'aretz is most probably okay. There's no gzera. Okay, Yosef, that could be a very easy answer because both stories of Gefonim and Kolim growing too close for comfort and being a parasite, they took place in Bavel. That was for sure in Bavel. Shmuel was in Bavel, Ravuna was in Bavel, Rav Chizda, and therefore that's a very, very simple answer to your question. Okay, Yosef, are you happy with me now? Well, oh wow, Baruch Hashem, that's good news. That's good news. Omar le Rov el Rabba Bar Mari. Now, the line starts with the word Omar Avrom, and that's a few, I don't know, about 10 or so lines from the narrow lines in the page. Yeah, Omar Avrom El Avimelech. Now, we're going to have today a lot of fun, basically a lot of Agadita today, a lot of wisdom for life from the Talmud. That should be the title. And the only common denominator between all the statements are discussion between Rava and Rabba Bar Mari, which we already started with Avimelech and Avrom. So now, many times the Gemara does that, in Daf Yud Aleph in Shabbos, there's like 12 statements, and the only connection is it's the same person talking. Once a certain Amoiro or like two Amoiroim that have a discussion are on stage, they stay on the stage of the Gemara, and that's the way it works now. Omar le Rove Rabba Bar Mari. Rove asked Rabba Bar Mari, Minoha Milsa, what's the source? That's also a common denominator. Rava and Rabba Bar Mari try to find sources to all kinds of concepts that people say. People talk, all kinds of proverbs. Some of them have a source and some of them don't. So if you hear people saying something, my wife just asked me because of a writing thing. She asked me, there's a saying people say, with a small doctor, you have a small malach. With a bigger doctor, you have a bigger malach. Yeah, that's a saying that people say. The bigger the doctor, the bigger the malach that goes with him. What's the source? So some ladies in their group said it's a Gemara, and some ladies said it's not a Gemara. So I checked up with my very, very great wisdom of clicking a few words in Oitzar HaChochma. So in Oitzar HaChochma, it's not a Gemara, it's a Magid Mimezrich. So Magid Mimezrich, so some ladies were disappointed, I guess, from her friends. The Magid Mimezrich, the Talmud Baal Shem Tov, he's the first origin of the statement. So when people talk and people say, you have to know what's the source and how much weight it has. What is the source of the milta of that saying, the statement, the proverb that people say? The hutza is either like bad weed or a thorny bush. And lucky is not lucky. It's not L-U-C-K-Y. Lucky is mean what? Gets hit. What? Malchus. When one pulls out the bad weed, sometimes together with it, the kruv, which is the cabbage, which is a good vegetable, also gets taken away. In other words, when Hashem punishes a Rasha, sometimes together with the Rasha, the tzaddik also is like the tzaddik gets punished together with the Rasha, and it's not oil Rasha or l'shchenoi. I right away thought oil Rasha or l'shchenoi, and that has a source at the end of Sukkah. This is not a shochen. Here, it's not necessarily a neighbor. We're going to see it's another person who lives in the same generation, and he gets punished together with the rest of the generation. What's the source for that? Look, it says in the Torah, Lama in Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah, the prophet, it says in Yirmiyahu, Lama tarivu alai, kulchem pashatem bi. Why are you fighting with me? Kulchem pashatem bi. All of you, says Hashem, you all neglected me. You all rebelled against me. There are two explanations. Neum Hashem, the word of Hashem, which means what? Yirmiyahu is telling the people, Hashem told me, all of you are a bunch of no goodniks. You're pashabi, you misbehave. Says Rashi, well, Hashem speaking to Yirmiyahu also. When Hashem says to Yirmiyahu, atem, you plural, he means Yirmiyahu as well. So though Yirmiyahu was a tzaddik, to a certain extent, if the generation is a Rasha, so too the manig also has some level of responsibility, and he's also considered to a certain level as a posher. The Maharsha argues. The Maharsha says no. Maharsha says Hashem told Yirmiyahu to say this to other people. Yeah, Yirmiyahu is supposed to quote a Kodesh Baruch Hu, so Yirmiyahu is not included, but it still means you, the tzaddikim. Tzaddikim as well as Rashaim have a level of rishus, of pshia, even though they're not the main poishim. And by the way, we saw that in Daf Nun, right? We saw that in Daf Nun Amud Beis, I think, around there. Or maybe in Daf Samech, one of the either Nunin or Samchim. Yeah, when Hashem gives permission to the Mashchis, then everybody can Chas v'Shalom get swept away. The tzaddikim as well as the Rishon, like in the Holocaust. Big tzaddikim together with the Rishon. So now Rava replies to Abba Bar Mari saying, At Omart Mehosam, you say that source is from there. I say the source is from a different place. This is a much earlier source from the Torah, from the story of the manna. Hashem told Bnei Israel after they sinned with a man, not with the eagle, with a man. What was the story with the man? They did every avera in the book, basically, the Rishonim, including looking for the man on Shabbos. The Mechalel Shabbos going out with the kelim to look for the man, against what Hashem told them. And then Hashem got angry and he said, Ad Ana, until when will you refuse to listen to my mitzvahs and my Torah? And who's you? Again, Rashi says you is also Moshe and Aaron. Why? Moshe was supposed to tell them about Shabbos even before. Even before the whole man thing, he was supposed to warn them, and he waited for the warning till it was too late, apparently, or too close to the actual Shabbos. So Moshe Rabbeinu also, to a certain extent, was to be blamed, just like the cabbage together with a bad thorn, with a bad weed. Hashem said to Moshe, you are also not 100% clean, together with God's Klal Yisrael. Amal Rove Rabbi Bar. Another statement. Rove is telling Rabbi Bar. Ksiv, it says about Yosef, when Yosef introduced his brothers to Pharaoh, so who did he take with him? He didn't take with him all 11 brothers. He only took 5. Which 5? Lahavdil? No, so it's a machlokes. Tosfos, which I'm not going to read today, says he took the five the strong ones, the strong, mighty, tall, dark, and handsome ones, the 5 that you show, the showcase guys. So, the 5 opening, the opening group, the first ones. So Rashi says otherwise. He took the 5 who looked like the most nebuche yeshiva bochrim, because he did not want Pharaoh to recruit them to the army. Army and us was always an issue. So he didn't want Pharaoh to take them to avoid the Samelech and bother them. He wanted them to sit and learn, do their own things in Goshen. So he wanted Dafka that Pharaoh should see the 5 weakest brothers, so that you would say, these are the brothers you brought. Who needs them for the army? Who needs them for the police? They should stay there in the ghetto and just do their own thing. So umiktseh echov, what miktseh? From the margin. He took the marginal brothers. Loka chamisha anoshim. He took 5 people amongst his brothers and only showed them to the boss, to Pharaoh. Maninu chamisha. Who are those 5 people? Those 5 brothers that were shown to Pharaoh, Dafka, because they're not so, attractive. That's what Rabbi Yochanan said. Those 5 brothers. If you read the bracha of Moshe Rabbeinu at the end of the Chumash, the Zois bracha, there are 5 brothers whose names are mentioned. V'zois legad Baruch Hashem b'chiv Gad. In other words, there's an opening statement. I'm talking now to God, and then again he mentions the name God. So says Rashi. You can look at the Rashi. Rashi says 5 brothers. They were Dan, Zvulun, Gad, Osher, and Naphtali. Dan, Zvulun, Gad, Osher, and Naphtali. They are the 5 ones which were weak. I don't know why is God weak, because it says God was very strong. God was frontline, and they would cut Torah of Zorav Kodko. They have a very unique way of killing their enemies. They would cut the head together with the left arm, like a diagonal way. I don't want to show it on myself, like the head and the left arm would be like slashed together. Very cool. So that was God. So according to that, this makes more sense. I don't know. The Maisa, there is an explanation, because the reason why Moshe had to double their names, mention the name twice, exactly to give them strength. The weaker brother is the one who needs more chizuk. They needed their names mentioned twice over, in order for Moshe to give them the extra energy. Maybe his bracha was so good that God became very strong. But at the time when they met Yosef, the original brothers, the fathers of each tribe, Gad and Dan and Naphtali and Asher, Zvulun, they were weak ones. They're not strong, and that's why he chose to show them to Pharaoh. Those guys, forget about them. Frag the Gemara, Yehuda. Yehuda was known to be a mighty one. Mighty Yehuda, Superman Yehuda. Of course, we all know the story, how we met, Yosef, screaming, with the thing, with the chest coming out. Frag the Gemara, Yehuda, the strong one. Yehuda's name also is mentioned twice. He's also mentioned double over. Double barrel name, double name, Yehuda. According to your theory, that those mentioned twice are the weaker ones. How can you explain the Yehuda's name was mentioned twice. He was a melech right from the start. So he answered, don't worry, I have an answer. Yehuda is mentioned for his own reason. Yehuda not because of weakness. Yehuda has his own issue, his own story, that because of that story, his name had to be mentioned twice. What's Yehuda's story? Why did Moshe have to mention Yehuda's name twice when he blessed him, his tribe, even though Yehuda was very strong? I know you know the answer. I know you know. The Omar of Shmuel ben Achmeni. No, I'll be happy to hear what you say. Let's first see what the Gemara says. The Omar of Shmuel ben Achmeni, Omar of Yonason. What does it mean when it says in the brachas of Moses, it says Yechir Reuven ve'al Yomois v'Mesav Mispa. Hashem gives the bracha to Reuven, he should live, he should not have many people die, or Mesav means people, have a lot of people, population, no death. You know, they should always, be fruitful and multiply. V'zois leYehuda. And then the one bracha right next to it, the follow-up bracha, straight after Reuven, it says Vizos leYehuda, and that one is for Yehuda. No other tribe, it says Vizos, as far as I remember. It says Kilu Reuven, and there's a connection here between Reuven and Yehuda. Reuven and Yehuda, like, going on the next song in the list. Kilu, the next one comes right away. Why? What exactly is the connection between Reuven and Yehuda? Explains the Gemara now. Now we're going to start a different story, and then we're going to explain the bracha. During the 4th years of the journey of the Israelites in the Sinai desert, the bones of Yehuda were not intact. In other words, they did not have one skeleton. Every bone was basically like rattling there, like change in your pocket. Why? Why is that? Because what happened with Yehuda? Yehuda said, Yehuda said that if I don't bring Yosef to you, said Yehuda to who? To Jacob, right? He said to his father, "Oh, you're scared I'm not bringing the little kindalach, the little kind, the Yosef? Don't worry. If I don't bring him, I'll be a sinner, and I'm taking myself from Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba. I'm removing my schar in Olam Zeh and Olam Haba if I don't bring him." He brought him back home. The Ma'aseh klol of a tzaddik, even with condition, is miskayim. If a tzaddik chas v'shalom curses somebody, including himself, even though the curse is conditional and the condition was not fulfilled, still a tzaddik's words, even more than other people, are sacred and very, what? Well, what's with Moshe? Very good. Very good, very good, Shlomo. It's good. Moshe Rabbeinu is mechini nami sifrecha, and so it was. That's true. So now Yehuda now is stuck, because now Yehuda doesn't get schar in Olam Haba, at least now where he's dead, and already at the beginning of the death, his bones are rattling, his bones are not intact, as opposed to other shvatim, as fulfilling his own self prophecy, self klala. So now Moshe Rabbeinu felt bad for him. Moshe Rabbeinu, at the end of his life, wants to take care of Yehuda, and his mevakesh rachamim is asking for mercy from Hashem. Omer lefonov. Now we're going to understand the connection between Reuven and Yehuda, mentioned by no other than Moshe. Omer lefonov. Moshe is telling Hashem, who's the one who caused to encourage Reuven to admit his sin, to confess his sin, that Reuven was changed the bed of his father? Some say he was really with the Bila. Reuven's hate with Bila. Who said, why did Reuven actually come out with it and confess? Yehuda. Yehuda was the one who caused him. Why? Because when Reuven, not the Yehuda told him anything. Once Reuven saw the Yehuda himself admitted to the story of Tamar, the whole story with Tamar was a very, very big business for Yehuda to admit in public. Yeah. And Reuven said, wow, I'm so wowed by my little brother. If he can admit what he did with Tamar, I'll also admit about Bilhah. Now, says Tosfos, chronologically it does make sense, because it says Reuven was moida even before Yehuda, but it says it wasn't in public. Reuven did tshuva, maybe his close circle of people knew about it, but Reuven came out with it to all the websites and the social media, and he admitted the hate, only after Yehuda came public with his thing. then Reuven also admitted in public, but not before that. And that's what it says, V'zois liYehuda. Zois, you see how nice it goes now, the syntax? Zois, every bracha that Reuven deserves is liYehuda. It's because of Yehuda. That is from Yehuda. Reuven's high level is because of Yehuda. So it's not Yehuda's name is mentioned twice because of Yehuda. First time Yehuda's name is mentioned in relation to who? To Reuven. And then starts a whole new bracha to Yehuda as an Anderzach, different story. But it's not because Yehuda needs chizuk, and that's why I say Yehuda twice. Yehuda doesn't need chizuk. He's strong. He's a star in his own right. And therefore, your question is not a question. Very good. Now we continue the Mahalach, the story with Yehuda's bones, because the story is not over. It's very nice that the bones are going to be intact and, built together. But what about Olam Haba? Says the Gemara, Miyad, we are, by the way, the second to last narrow line. Miyad Shama Hashem Kol Yehuda. Shma Hashem Kol Yehuda. Listen to Yehuda's voice. Al Eivre L'Shafa. And his Ivarim, his bones or his organs, I assume is a tzaddik. It wasn't just bones. It probably had the entire body. L'Shafa means each bone or each organ came back to its original place. The jigsaw puzzle was, complete by now. Hashem listened to Moshe. By the way, shafa actually means to remove. So Rashi explains it came back to the place where it was removed from. That's his arm got back to the top of the torso. Yeah, everything came back to place. But that's all very nice that his body is intact. That's very nice, but that's just the beginning of the story. Dr. Gemara, lo havu kamaskil mesifta derakia. They did not accept him to yeshiva shalmala. Mesifta derakia literally means yeshiva shalmala. I don't know if people realize, maybe some do, some don't. When people say nispakish yeshiva shalmala in all the labais, yeshiva shalmala means yeshiva. Yeshiva, about yeshivas, whichever one, Ponevish, Shalavim, Gur, Bells, yeshiva. In upstairs, what do they do in the Gan Eden? They don't play cards and they don't play football and not soccer. What do? They learn Torah. That's what they do all day long, all night long, the whole time. That's the only thing you do is you sit and learn. Yehuda was not accepted to yeshiva. He had very good father, good mother, good family, but he was not accepted to the yeshiva. He wasn't accepted to yeshiva, and his parents were not Baal Tshuva, and he wasn't accepted to yeshiva. Yeah, he wasn't a Sephardi, and still not accepted to yeshiva. What? And the internet was absolutely blocked in his house. So why is it that Mesifta their kid accept him? Because of his own klala. Because Yehuda himself said, "Kol hayomim, yomim, all days forever. I'll sin, and I'm losing my Olam Haba to bring Yosef." So you didn't fill the application form. You put a cross on the application form. But Moshe davened for him and continues the bracha of Yehuda. We're quoting the bracha of Moshe to Yehuda. Bring him to his nation, bring him to his people. Moshe is davening that although Yehuda's klala would have been effective, take away the impact of the klala HaKadosh Baruch Hu and bring him to his nation, to his people, meaning please accept him to yeshiva. What do you do when somebody, your kid's not accepted to yeshiva? You ask a Rav, you ask somebody choshev to intervene on your behalf. There was a Rav from the Kiyai came all the way here to speak to the Menahelet to accept a girl to the seminary. And she did. That doesn't always help, by the way. But it helps. So, oh, yeah. Weiter. Yeah, I will not mention this line, but you're right. That is really sad now. He went to yeshiva, but because he still had the klala, sort of upon him, he didn't know what's going on there. Finally, your kid is in yeshiva. He comes back home. He had no idea what's going on. They speak in Yiddish. Or in case here in Olam Haba, he was sitting in Olam Haba and no idea what's going on. Because it's not enough to be in yeshiva of Olam Haba. You have to converse with all the chevra in learning. You have to talk in learning. With a mishkal mitrach and to do shakal v'tarya, to discuss and have the back and forth of the Gemara, the Adi Rabbanon. All the other great chachamim are there. Yehuda sitting there like, a bench, a park bench. Because it's still, every step of the way, he needs a bracha. Yadav Rav Loi. So Moshe Rabbeinu davened, and we all know this is the continuation of the bracha. Yadav Rav Loi, he should have his hands everywhere. Like you say, you stick your finger everywhere. He should have his hands in learning. In other words, like this. In other words, his hand should be Rav, should be Mashpia, should be good. His hand should be all over the place, all over the sugis, with all the discussion. He's able to find his, In English, it's all matzat yadav aglav. To find your legs and feet, your hands and feet, you don't say that. No. In Hebrew, you say, what? Find your way. In Hebrew, you say motzet yadav aglav. You know, to find your way around, to be proficient, to find your hands there. That's still not enough. Very arduous process. Still, he could not, although he was talking and learning, he did not manage to get the sugya aliba de hilchasa. Yehuda, while learning in Shiva Shamala, did not manage to find actually the right, to get to the right conclusion, which would be fitting to the halacha. You can learn the sugya in the Gemara for a long time, but not get the right conclusion. You don't get the right conclusion. You come up with one conclusion, you open Shulchan Aruch, the opposite conclusion. It's not shmaitza, the sugya does not fit the halacha l'maisa. That's what happened to Yehuda. And so for that also Moshe davened, Ezel mitzorov tiyeh. Please Hashem, help him from his enemies. In other words, he should be the right one. Arguing and learning with everybody else in Shamayim, help him from the tzara, from the enemies, or from tzoro, from the bad thing. Help him to actually assist him to go through the sugya the right way and find the halacha l'maisa correctly in his yeshiva in Olam Haba. So really, Yehuda needed this entire long bracha, not because he was physically weak, nothing to do with that. It's the whole bracha of Yehuda is just one long davening of Moshe Rabbeinu, step by step, to make sure that Yehuda goes over all the hurdles to get to the highest place in Olam Haba and get into the learning and find the sugya satisfying. Yes? Weiter. Another discussion, finding the source by Rava talking to Abba Bamari's second wide line. Mina Milsa, what is the source? People say, poverty follows the poor. A poor person, poverty always follows him. Once a misken, always a misken. He's poor in one thing, the poverty will keep, pursuing him. How do you know? Is that so? Is there a source for that? Amarle, yes, there is a source. It says about Bikurim, the mitzvah of Bikurim, bringing the first fruit to the Kohen in Yerushalayim. Detnan, Ashir mevin Bikurim bekloses shel zov v'shel kesef. The rich people, they would bring their Bikurim in kloses, or nice baskets made out of gold and silver. The rich, they bring it, as we say in Hebrew, there's a Hebrew word, in style chul. Yeah, very stylish, nice, well-designed gold and silver. That's how they would bring the fruit. The poor people would bring their bikurim in those regular baskets made out of arava, made out of willow, klufa, peeled willow, nothing to write home about, maybe nice looking, but nothing more than that. So, asalim ba'bikurim noisim lakohanim, which means the rich people, the rich people would take back the gold and silver. They wouldn't give it to the kohen. They would give him the grapes and the pomegranates and the zeisim v'chulei. But the fancy dish, no. Sometimes you get nice shalachmanis with the fancy dish. I'm saying, like, that's not the case. We take back the fancy one. This is like more than the 10 agorot of the bags in the supermarket. But the anim would actually leave the little shmattery things that anim would give, would stay by the kohen. You give it to the kohen, which means what? That really, just like the poor person who's already poor, is also losing his little basket of willow, while the rich man retains his wealth. I read this Mishnah many times and I never chapped it. Why do we encourage it? Is this halacha? Why does it have to be that way? Why don't the anim take back, if it really affects them? Is halacha demanding them to give the yesh bag of 10 agorot? Is halacha demanding them to give it to the kohen? Why? Why is that fair? Finally, at the ripe age of 51, I got the answer. I saw one of the Meforshim, I think on the Mishnah or on the Sefer, somebody on Yaakov, somebody says a very, very good shot. He says that there has to be a certain value to the Bikurim. Even though Bikurim is on anything, but the value of the fruit of the anim was not good l'chatchila. The amount of fruit they brought was very little. So to take back the arava, the basket, would really be not matim. In order to make it look presentable, you give that little, you can't ask for change. But Sheikh and Ashirim, the Ashirim would bring real nice, looks nice fruit platter, like somebody gave me on Purim. They're very fancy, nice fruit. And Mimela, it is very normal and tactful to ask for the change back of the golden thing, because the fruit themselves are plentiful enough. The shank and the poor people, to give that little, to asking even for at least give the kohen the basket, because to ask for, you give 1 shekel to the poor man and you ask for change. Come on, Mimela, that's the way it worked. But Lamaisa, for the anim, that meant that poverty followed them. Yes? Weiter. Omerle, so now again, Rava replies to Rabbi Bomari. Omerle, Atamart Mehosam. You say the source is from Bikurim. I have my source. I have a different source. What does it say in the source over there? The Tome Yikra. The Mitzora. When a person has Saras, at some point he has to go outside the camp. And he has to call and tell people, I'm Tome. Hey, don't get near me. I'm Tome. Look at Rashi. The poor man gets more poverty. He may be a millionaire, but, says Rashi, Lo dailo nigoy, not enough that he has a nega, that he has a physical a pain and disease. He also has to put himself into shame. He has to declare, I am Tome. Even whether he likes it or not, he has to declare, I'm Tome, which means if a person goes the wrong way, that continues, and poverty, spiritual poverty or social poverty, follows him along. And we all know that it's his fault. He spoke Lashon Hara. So now you'll have to declare that you're Tome instead of saying about everybody else that they're Tome. And it's a process. Eventually, he gets started, does tshuva. There is a happy ending to the story. At some point, you always have that one thing leading to the other in a way that deteriorates. What is the source? For a breakfast. How do you know that it's healthy and good for you to have a breakfast? How do you know the source? The Omu Rabbanon. Now, these are not people saying, that's Rabbanon saying. Please note the differences, spot the differences. This is something that their rabbis are saying. Hashkem bechol b'kaitz. Hashkem bechol. Get up early and eat your breakfast after davening, of course, not before davening. B'kaitz mipnei achama. In the summer, because of the heat, the weather affects you, and the weather changes is one reason for people to get sick. The winter, it gets cold, and if you eat well, you have a good hearty breakfast, continental breakfast, before either a hot day or a cold day, that would help you go through the day. And people say, Shitin Rahuti Rahut, 60 runners, 60, professional Olympic runners can run, and they will not reach the gavra to the man, the mitzafra korach, the person who has karich. Karich is a fancy word in Hebrew for a sandwich. A person who has a sandwich in the morning, has a pas shachris, he'll be strong, he'll be mighty, and even the other runners, they won't be able to reach him. Now, 60 doesn't necessarily mean after 60. Yeah. Lamaisa, okay, Toysa says something. Right now, Lamaisa, he'll be very strong, be able to run quickly. So, what's the source? 1 second, let's see the source and then I'll hear you. Dichtiv, it says, Lo yira'avu v'lo yitzmeu. They will not be hungry, it won't be thirsty. V'lo yokum shara v'shemesh. And then the sharav, the chamsin, the hot weather, and the sun will not strike them, which means the sharav v'shemesh, the bad weather, whatever that is, hot or cold, does not affect a person who's not hungry and not thirsty. If you keep good nutrition, your nutrition is good, you will not be so affected by the changes of weather, the changes of season, and you see a makor in the Navi. Amar lei, and again, Rabbi himself has a different source. That is your source. I have my source. It says like this, and thank you for your patience. It says the Torah, the whole Malach over there. It says in Shmois, yeah, it says Va'avadetem es Hashem Elokeichem Zok Yashma v'Tfilah. This is the good order for the day. This is your schedule of a Jewish person. First of all, you serve Hashem. The beginning of the pasuk, how do you serve Hashem? Krishma and Tfilah. Then He will bless your bread and water. To pass b'melach b'kiton shel mayim. In other words, eat your bread with salt, not too much salt. Too much salt is not good for the kidneys and not good for Not good for many things. Blood pressure. My diet is very low salt. Yeah. So pas b'melach b'kiton shel mayim and a jug of water. That's what's for giving a jug of water. Look, show and tell. Kiton shel mayim. Yeah. Kiton shel mayim says Rashi for those who don't have wine. In other words, wine is better, or somebody says, yeah. In other words, have your breakfast, bread and water. If you do that, then if you daven well and you eat well afterwards, I will remove any disease from amongst you. What's machala? Now something very interesting. The Tanya, it says in the Brisa, machala zu moro. The synonym for machala is mara. Mara is a gallbladder. You want, yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's next to the liver. Yeah. Mara, yeah, right? Hello? Art scroll? What? Not gallbladder? Mara is gallbladder. What is it? No, but what's Mara? Gallbladder. Oh. I was right for a change. So Art scroll and I always agree. So machla zamara. Why do you call the gallbladder disease? In other words, there are 83 diseases that can be related to the mora. The gallbladder, for some reason, can bring a lot of machlos to the person. Machla begimatria hachiavu. The gematria of machla is 83. 83 is machala, and the mora can bring you machala, which means 83 different diseases can be connected to the mora. Rashi in a different masechta says something like the whole thing can, I don't know, burst and bring other things. I didn't get it so much. I didn't look into it, but apparently the mara can cause a lot of trouble. The kulan, all those 83 machlas, what's the advice? You have bread with salt in the morning, and the kiton shalmaim have a lot of water in the morning. That's mevatlon. That cancels them. You have a lot of water at the beginning, you don't want to eat so much. You know, when the people are on a diet, they say drink a lot of water before the meal, be less hungry. Rabbi reads, Ma'atar ledaberititi. Another one, Minah Milsa, the Omu Rabbonon. And here there are two versions, Rabbonon and people. But Dafka the Marsha says this is Rabbonon. This is not Stam old ladies talking. This is a rabbinical piece of advice. If your friend calls you a donkey, so what do? You can sue him, take him to BSD. Okay, that's an option in halacha. But the Chachamim say the Chatchila and the Musar level, ukfa legabich mush. Take the ukaf, take the saddle, and put it in your back. So that's not so simple. On one hand, you can say you're being onov and be quiet, like a lot of people say. The famous Gemara in Shabbos, if somebody insults you, you keep quiet and you become like the sun, like the mighty sun, in Shemaim. But it's mashma from the Maharsha and from the whole discussion later that he means, let's say a person tells you something which is insulting, but it's true. It's true. Let's say he tells you something and he hits the nail on the head. So instead of denying and saying, no, I'm really Einstein when it comes to mathematics. What are you talking about? Everything's, in other words, instead of that, what? Admit it. Admit your chesroinus, live with it, come up with it, and don't live in denial. What's the tallest mountain in America? Denial. Denali. Yeah. Okay. In other words, don't climb the high mountain. Just admit and where do come. I hear what you're saying. I hear the example is not so clear. I hear. No, maybe it means you're too gashmi. Chamor is very gashmi. Chamor is also stubborn. Maybe somebody tells you in an insulting way, you're so into gashmias and you're so stubborn, and you say the guy's right. So think about it. It's not nice he said it. Maybe he's insulting, he's a bad guy, but maybe it's true. So wear the saddle and do cheshbon and nefesh about it. How do you know that's true? Omerle, dichtiv, it says in the Torah, the Yomer, the Malach is talking to Hagar. Hagar ran away from, as we all know, from Sarai. The first time, when she ran away. No one was just chased away. She ran away. Hagar, Shifcha Sarai. Hagar, you, the Shifcha, the slave of, woman slave of Sarai. Where are you going from? Where are you going to? And she said, which means, I'm explaining according to Maharsha, amazing psychology. She said, I'm running away from Sarai, my boss, my mistress. Yeah. So, wait, she's a running slave. Yeah, all the guys from the north are helping her to go through the tunnel, right? In other words, why is she saying sorry, Gvirti? She's already wearing the shirt saying, I'm a free woman. No, because she knew she's really a slave, even though she felt uncomfortable with that, but that was reality. She was really a running slave, and she was, yes, the slave of sorrow. So even though she did not want to admit it, she was. She wasn't officially liberated. She was running away, halachically still belonging to sorrow, right? Whether she liked it or not. So Hagar was smart. As much as Hagar is a bit of dubious character in the Torah, Hagar knew her place. In other words, he told her, hey, and he told her, Hagar, Shifcha Sarai, you the Shifcha Sarai. She said, you know what, you're actually right. I'm not really a free woman. I'm admitting, you know something, Mr. Malach, up there, Mr. Angel? Yeah, Sarah is my mistress. And she admitted that. And that's how we should behave and accept the techacha when people tell us. That's the marsha in the depths of the Inyan. Amar lei, and that's what Rabbanon say to not people. This is not stam, a guy in the street will tell you, spoke to you like that. No, but the Rav will tell you, listen, maybe he's right. That's what Rabbanon are telling us. We're almost in North Korea, but not yet. Okay, enjoy your freedom. Yeah. Now more psychology, more human wisdom. How do you know what is the source for the following thing? What's gnai? Something negative about you, some shortcoming, some problem that you have, some issue that you have, and nobody's perfect. Kadim Omro. When you meet somebody, go ahead and tell them about it at first. In other words, whether it's a date, a shidduch, or a job interview, there's a problem that will most probably be revealed afterwards. It looks very bad if you didn't come up with it right at the beginning, right? A boy and a girl date, and all of a sudden, after the 10th meeting, she knows that, I don't know what, that he's taking pills. I don't know, whatever that is, yeah? Dark secrets. Come up with it at the beginning and say, and then see what happens, yeah? In other words, come up with a chisaron before, it gets revealed the ugly way. That's come up front with the problems right at the beginning. Omerle, what do you source? Is there a source? It says that also in the Torah, the Yomer. Now, Eliezer looked like a very mechubadik person with 10 camels, a lot of subordinates under him. He was the main slave of who? Of Avraham Avinu. He's now meeting a whole new family, and they never saw his face because his face was not in the newspapers back then. And I'm not sure on the websites of Lavan they actually could see it. I don't know. The kids they never saw Eliezer, and he could have faked that he's not an Eved. He could have said, I'm his partner, I'm an uncle. He could have somehow faked and make himself look nicer than he is, as a higher position. Yeah, you meet the guy in an office, you don't know whether he's a secretary or the COO. You can, change things a little bit, garnish the truth. Yeah. But Yomer, no, Eved of Avram Anochi, I'm the slave of Avram. He right away came up with this position. He didn't try to, embellish the truth. I'm the Eved of Ram. I'm a lowly Eved, and that's who I am. I'm not, looking to cover up for my chesronis that I'm an Eved. What is the source of the following statement, a saying that people say? Shapil ve'azil bar avza. The duck, bar avza is the son of the avaz, which I think is like the duck. The duck goes with his eyes down. Yeah, in other words, not with the eyes down. He goes like a shafil, like a very humble way. The duck walks the humble way. The eine metaifi, but his eyes are looking upwards like saf. Metaifi are like floating. The eyes are really looking. What does that mean? That means a few things. One pshat Rashi says a person may be very big onov. A person can be an onov. It should be an onov. But when it comes to your rights, you should demand what you deserve. Yes. Look at Rashi. Rashi says Shapil Vazil. Rashi it's a few lines after the beginning of the narrow lines. Shapil Vazil Kloimer. Machmas and Vesanusa Shal Odom, just because the person is humble, Lo boy, she should not be embarrassed. Milishal Dover Tzarich Loi. Should ask for something that he needs. Ben Letoiro. Let's say in a shiur, you want to ask a question. Ask the question. Don't let the North Korea business here. Don't be ashamed to ask your question. Ben Leparnososoi. Your parnoso, let's say somebody owes you money. You did a job for someone and he owes you money. It's one day after the other. demand the money. I mean, in a respectful way, but I'm saying, don't say I'm in honor of what you deserve, you deserve. And how do you know that? How do you know that you don't have to be a doormat just because you're in honor of? Amalei Dichtiv, it says, and this is talking Abigail, talking to David. Abigail spoke to David. Abigail was a big anova, tzaddikus, neviah, yefefiyah, everything she was. And she's talking to David, and she predicts that her husband will die. She told David, you don't have to kill him. You killed enough people. She gave me the Musar stories. You know, he's going to die soon anyways. And so it was. And then she's Merames. She's hinting that she's interested in David as her second husband. Yeah. And that's a bit courageous for a woman to do. But she demanded what she saw as her rights. She was a Neviah. She knew that she's matim to David. And she said, you know, as humble as she was, big tzaddikus, but she wants David, and she's actually, you know, encouraging it. Look at that. The pasuk says, not me. Dichtiv, v'heitiv Hashem la'adoini. Hashem will be meitiv, will do good to my master, David. Remember your maidservant. And he's not saying stam. Rashi says, remember my beauty. That's what she said. She's meramis. She didn't say it outright, maybe lot sanua, but she hinted, remember me. Remember Grant, remember Lee, remember me. Says the, right, such a thing. Says who? Says Abigail, one of the only 7 Nevios of Am Yisrael. No, you're not happy with that? You okay? Yeah. Yeah. All her words were she wasn't telling it directly. Right. She was Roimis. Cute. We're towards the end of the narrow lines. How do you know what's the source of the following proverb? Shitin Tachli. There are 6, again, 6 is an exaggeration. There are 60 diseases, Matia lekacha, come to the teeth. Kacha is either teeth or gums. The mouth, there are 60 diseases come to the teeth. The kal chavri shoma, that listens to his friend eating, v'loy ochal. In other words, you are somewhere, you're listening, you're hungry, let's say, you listen to your friend eating, you know, crunchy, like Doritos, except Doritos are on cherem now, whatever, chips or something. Doritos are on cherem. Yeah, Doritos are cherem. My daughter bought them by mistake. I'm sorry about that. Doritos, the 3 dinim said not to eat. I'm not joking. Please stop it. Please stop it. Thank you. Doritos are in cherem till after Pesach because they had an advertisement for Mishkav Zofer, to promote Mishkav Zofer. And the Badats, they still give them hechsher, I guess, for technical reasons, but they said not to buy their stuff. The kids are, that's besides the point. The kids are, you listen to a friend eating and you're not eating, it hurts you physically. You're jealous of the guy next who's eating and you're not. Omar Lay, what's the source for that? This is talking about, by the way, about Nosan and Novi. Nosan and Novi, towards the end of the life of David, who was trying to play games, Adonio ben Chagis tried to become the king, you know, to usurp the thing, the Malucha, and Bathsheba knew about it, so she made like, you know, like a plan, like a scheme with Nasan, right? You come, and then I come, and together we approach David, saying, oh, what's going on here? Adonio is trying to become king, and that's not the plan, it's supposed to be Shlomo. So now, Nasan is talking to David, complaining about Adonio. Just be aware that there is this coup d'etat, whatever. Dechtiv, Deli, Ani avdecho, to me, I, my servant, says Nasan, Tzaddik HaKohen was a Kohen Gadol, B'nai ben Yoyada, which was one of David's people, who was Shlomo, avdecho loy kora. He made a whole party, a whole inauguration, a coronation party, and he didn't call any of us, surprisingly. We are the top people, and he's working behind our backs. So in other words, what? And he says he did not call me, meaning I'm not invited to the meal. It's Kilo Nasan is jealous for not being at the meal. It's very interesting because that's not the reason. The reason is because he wants David's good, not his own good. But somehow we still learn from this pasuk, he didn't call me, that's insulting. In other words, if there would be no issue of my friend eating and I'm not eating, so it's a taina. But to have a party and not invite someone, that hurts. You invite Reuven and not Shimon, that's a statement. So it hurts Shimon. What? He was what? Disrespected. Yes, exactly. So Mimele, you see that eating without somebody else is disrespectful. Very good. Amarle, Atomarat Mehosam. You say that's a source. I'll give a different source for jealousy. Listen to this unbelievable source. Every child in Gan knows the story and the picture. Rivka was brought by Yitzchak to the oil of sorrow. Why the oil of sorrow? I know this picture by heart. 9 children already bring the same picture. The challah and the anan on top and the candles. The spirit of sorrow came back to life once Rivka was there. So now, yeah, Rivka, he took Rivka, she was his wife, he loved her. Yitzchak loved Rivka, and she was Beinachem Yitzchak Achre Imoy. So that was double love. He loved her as a wife, of course, with his very high level. And also, she was like, Rashi says, when a person's mother dies, it's very hard for him, but his wife is like a comfort. The wife is, in a way, instead of the mother. Psychologists have a lot to say about that. I know it's a known thing in psychology, but there is something to it. In other words, that's the new feminine figure in his life. So now there's for him, he has nechama that instead of sorrow. The Ksiv Basrei, surprisingly, look what's the next thing that happens. The Yosef of Ram, the Ikach Isha Shma Ktura. All of a sudden, right away, Avram took a woman called Ktura, which may have been Hagar, which did tshuva, yeah. And what? Why? Says Rashi, Niskane beYitzchak. 2 words. It was jealous of Yitzchak. Good jealousy. Avram was jealous of his own son. He is happily married, and he is like, already comforted, consoled. I also want to be happily married and consoled. And that's why he married too. And that's a good thing. It's a good kina. Avram got on with his marriage life because he saw what's happening with Yitzchak. So you see that jealousy, this is going on by him. And I also want to have the same, is not necessarily a bad thing. If you do it constructively, if you respond constructively, it's a good thing. Even better. Yeah, they're not in a competition. It's true. All the better. They're not in competition. They're 100%. Very good. Thank you. Ellen knows a lot of midrashim. You're a big source for midrashim. No, really, Ellen knows midrashim very well. Like you always teach me a new midrash, which I don't know. How do you know the following statement? And here there's a big machlokas how to explain the following statement. Big machlokas Rashi Tosfos. We don't have much time, but we'll start. This following statement is like this. In English, I learned at some stage there's a saying to shoot the messenger. Here, not to shoot the messenger, but to thank the messenger. Instead of thanking the original, not the instigator, the origin of the gift, of the good thing, they thank the one who carries it out. What? That's what happens, but the delivery boy, you thank so much, and you sometimes forget to thank the sender of the gift. Yeah. So that's one pshat. Let's follow this pshat, and then afterwards we'll read it again with the other pshat. Okay. So let's start this. We don't have much time. It says about Moshe Rabbeinu. Hashem told Moshe, do smicha, physical smicha, with one hand over Yoshua. You should do physical smicha on the head of Yoshua, so everybody should know he is the next king, he's the next best thing. Nobody should argue. And afterwards, what does it say? Bnei Israel saw, you know why Yoshua is choshuv? Because why? As if Moshe's hands are doing the job. No, Moshe's hands were only carrying a heavenly message from Hashem. Moshe was only the shliach, and yet it looked like, and it was, the way it seemed was that Moshe himself, is the one giving the wine. I didn't translate the words. Chamre lemari, the wine belongs to the master. But the thank you, you tell the shakya, the butler, the sarmashkim, the butler did it. Yeah, so that's one shot. I'll tell you Tosfos, and then we'll finish for today. Tosfos says no. The master has the wine, but it gives the liberty of deciding how much to give, sort of like how it's going to be done. It gives that liberty of decision to the butler. You get that? And then he learns the psukim differently. Hashem told Moshe, one hand be samech with one hand, and Moshe, upon his own decision, decided to put two hands, and that's okay. In other words, the good master allows the butler to have the freedom of choice, be liberal with how much and what and where, and that's what happens here. The wine belongs to the master, but the toiva sano, the decision of how much to give, is up to the messenger, which was Moshe Rabbeinu, who decided to give Yeshua more and more than double as much as what Hashem told him. Thank you very much. I'm happy to hear your question, Ellen. Yes, Ellen. And have a good day tomorrow. See you tomorrow at 9:25. Yes, I'm listening.